Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
Welcome to the Motivated Martial Artists Podcast with me, Gavin Cook.
Me, Jackson White.
And we've got a real treat this evening. We've got Dave Sheppard. I was gonna use your nickname then, Dave.
Yeah, I think some of the kids might not be too happy. The kids would be fine, but the parents wouldn't be too happy.
So Dave Shep from the Valleys is what we're going to call you.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll use the bleeped out version. Thanks for coming on the show, Dave. Great to have you on. I know there's, you've probably got hundreds of stories that we need to try and get out of you. So, yeah, I'm sure the TAGB audience is desperate to hear this podcast for sure.
Yeah, welcome aboard, Dave. It's great to have you on. I know when I was a young teenager, I used to look at you just hitting the men's division with awe. Some of the techniques that you were fighting. When you were fighting my dad, it was always there. Is he going to beat him this time? Is he going to get him? Because eventually you always get to beat your idol. And total awe of you as a young man growing up. So
thank you. Thanks very much, and thanks for inviting me on. So,
more than welcome. So I'm going to kick off with the first question. So our listeners, I'm sure they're keen to know a little bit about you, your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, and of course, how you got into martial arts.
Well, I live in Newport, South Wales. Lived here all my life. Normal kid when I was growing up, just into everything, climbing up trees, diving in mud puddles, just basic stuff, going out on the bike. When I got to about 9 or 10, started playing a bit of football for a season, joined swim club for a season, only twice a week for about 9 months. Then went into high school. So I didn't start Taekwondo until I was 12. A lot of people thought I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
And it was basically, I had a bit of trouble with some kids in school. Nothing to the level of the bullying that you get now, but in those days, like 39 years ago, 40 years ago, it was just stuff that was upsetting. Just put you off going into school. You're a bit worried about being around certain people. Parents weren't happy, and they saw a little article in one of our local papers, and it was about 5 lines long, and it was only a small 2-inch square box, and it just said Taekwondo demonstration at Risca Leisure Centre with Master Lynn Evans, who was fourth dan at the time, and the area representative for Wales. So I was at my grandparents' house, didn't know anything about it. They just said, come on, we're going. I was busy playing, didn't want to go anywhere. Went up there. Lynn Evans put this demonstration on, all these kicks, jumping all over the place, smashing boards. Fantastic. And just took it from there then. Just joined the following session 2 days later and just took off. And believe me, I was not a natural. Definitely.
What year was that, Dave?
That was in 1982.
Oh,
So May, it was sometime in May I started. 39 years this year.
It's funny when you think back to those. I mean, I think we as martial artists, we can all remember the first time we stepped in that dojang, couldn't we? And I suppose for the youngsters listening, the dojangs in them days were not like the type of dojangs you get these days. There was no nice matted floor, was there? And no posh punch bags hanging from the ceiling. It was normally like sweep the fag butts off the floor before you get in there. Yeah.
That's it. It was a school gym with the climbing frames on the wall, all equipment chucked in the corner.
Yeah.
The leisure centre's still there now, and I go up there now and again with my kids. And I take them in there, and it's the memories you get from it. I can remember going in there. There was 22 people started on that first session, and I'm the last one. One of the other guys came and went. He probably lasted about 30 years, but he had a couple of years off in between. There was just fantastic people up there. It was a group of guys that were just winning competitions all the time. They were about 5-10 years older than me, but it was inspirational to see them and watch them, and I was with them every day. and you've seen the effort they put in, and they would go and train outside of the club. They'd spend time together, and it was just fantastic. But like I said, I wasn't brilliant. I just enjoyed it.
So what do you remember about that first lesson? What's the one highlight of the first lesson that sticks in your mind?
The fear of the instructor. He was very strict. It was one of those instructors where when you got to know him, it was completely different. You could laugh and joke. But as a 12-year-old going in, I wouldn't speak to anybody. There was only one or two kids, and there was a girl called Paula and a guy called Mike Chum, who we all know.
Yeah,
who's still around, still friends with him. Other than that, they were all adults. Everybody was adults. So you went in there, and it was just the intensity of everybody training. And you had this instructor who you looked at, and you just felt the fear going through your body.
Yeah.
But he had that aura about him where it was like, oh my God, this guy knows what he's on about. He's strong. When he's doing blocks, you could see him shaking. And it was like, I want to be like that. And you're seeing all these guys throwing their legs about, and it's like, wow, I want to get my legs up there.
Yeah.
I think it was like that for everyone though in that era. Certainly in that era, you either went there and you thoroughly immersed yourself in the art and got really hooked, or you left, or you just didn't come back, did you? That was it. There was no halfway house, was there?
No. And I think in those days as well, there was a different age bracket. Nowadays, you've got the parents bringing their kids. In those days, I think the main people you had were, say, from 14 to 25.
Yeah.
You had the guys that wanted to come in, they wanted to train hard, they wanted to fight, they wanted to be throwing punches and kicks, getting hit, moving out the way. That's why we had such a strong fighting background within the TAGB coming through. Yeah. Because you had that group, and then things have changed.
It was on the back of the Bruce Lee days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
People saw the Bruce Lee movies, and then Jackie Chan, and those early 80s, late 70s movies. And they were young adults. I suppose nowadays you get a lot of those young adults, those teenagers, 19, 20 to 25. They're going directly into MMA, aren't they? More than into more traditional martial arts.
Yeah, I think we went through a phase where computers took over, and the teenagers it's still on them now. And they just took away that fighting group, that core of people that we had.
Yeah.
But like you said, over the recent years now, you've got the UFC and the MMA, and a lot of people that go in there.
We have this discussion quite a bit because we have some great MMA fighters on coaches and fighters on the show. And you know, a good chap you'll know, Mark Weir.
Yeah.
He's an ex-Taekwondo man. Yeah, exactly. So he's someone that came into MMA through a traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
And he's a great advocate of get your core martial art, be a great practitioner in one style, then start migrating across.
Yeah.
And we've had others that go, no, I've never done a traditional martial art. And, they've made it to the top of the fight game, and they've just come in and they've learned a little bit of everything. So it's two quite diverse routes to get into MMA.
Yeah.
But
I think
I think you need that core traditional martial art to take forward.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I think we're all there because we've done that one core, and then we just diversify and take little bits out of elsewhere. But I suppose it's all different now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got different marketing, you've got different ways of getting students in.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting that fighting group, whereas we're bringing along a lot of children, but those children are turning into amazing fighting machines. They've got the skills, they've got the techniques, they've got the agility, the mobility. The stuff they're coming out with now is amazing. Because they started from a young age.
Well, we're using science now, aren't we? We're using science in the sport, aren't we? The sport science of the martial art is evolving, and as it evolves and new information comes out, then we're passing it on to the students. The students are growing, and they're growing in different ways from what we had the opportunity to. For us, it was just you turned up at the nearest hall, and whatever martial art is there, that's what you join. And you think back to the sort of brutal stretching exercises that we used to get, as part of your standard Friday night class.
I remember many a Sunday morning you just jumping on my back, Gavin, with my legs as wide as possible.
That's what we used to do. I always say this to my students. You put your feet together and you have your sort of legs out wide like a butterfly type. And then the instructor used to put his hands on your shoulders, didn't he, and stand
on your legs and push them down.
Just push them, just push them down. And it was an exercise that we used to do regularly in the class. And you always got some dipshit who just jumped up there and stamped on you. And it's like, whoa, you can walk for the rest of the week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all been there, but it's things like that bring you the memories and bring that camaraderie.
Yeah.
You don't get that so much now, so you don't have people laughing and joking about it, about the pain and suffering you went through.
I'm sure, they probably do, but maybe it's a watered down version now.
It's in a different way now.
Yeah, most definitely.
I don't think people would stay if they trained the same way as they did when we started.
No.
You're right. All the people that would stay would be a smaller element, smaller group.
Oh yeah, the
most definitely.
10, 15.
But you know
people.
what? I'm an advocate. I like to evolve in everything that we do, and to be quite honest, the methodology and instructing of children. I drank when I was 4. And I struggled, but I persevered because my dad made me.
Yeah.
Because I loved Taekwondo. I grew to love it as I became a teenager. But certainly from the age of 4, I struggled because the methodology of teaching didn't suit me as a child.
Yeah.
And I think we've learned and we've grown. We've taken science. Even my bloody wrists kill and my shoulders kill now from punching boards at my black belt grading when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Science says we should never have done that. We did it, big deal. Then we move on. Now we know we're more educated, aren't we, as martial artists? And we know that's probably not the best thing. Well, it's not the best thing for children that aren't fully developed to be punching boards at the age of 10. So to take the science and to take the knowledge and develop the art, that's why I think, like you said, we're getting these super fighters now.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm much better.
And I think as well, you got with the social media, people are just seeing so many. Whereas before we went to Taekwondo, you saw Taekwondo people. You might have seen the odd karate class lying around. Now we've all got thousands of Facebook friends, and we're watching all these different martial arts. We're watching these different skills. We might do the same kick, but there's thousands of different ways of how to teach that kick.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like. You might teach a technique to your class of 100 students, and there's one person who's just never going to pick it up. You have somebody else who teaches a different method that 99 students don't like, but that one person picks up on it, and they fly. So we've got
that diversity, isn't it? That diversity. Yeah. That's great. So just talk us through your first grading then, Dave. Can you remember that far back?
First grading.
Yeah.
Landwitt Major, just outside Barry, with Master Riki Ha. Again, I was 12 years old. The grading was on August the 22nd, 1982.
Hang on, have you been preparing for this interview?
No, I've got all my certificates. And I took a picture of it a couple of years ago just to put on. I just never put it up on Facebook. But yeah, in Landwitt Major, there was about 70 people. There was people from Newport, Cardiff, Barry. We went in, did the grading, and then Master E stood up and he was talking to us and telling us different things. And he was like, right, you've got to create power. Bang! And he punched the wall of the building.
What?
And the whole building shook. And you've got to remember that I'm like this little skinny blonde kid, probably about 6 stone, soaking wet. And he hit it, the building shook. And I think my eyes just opened wide. Wow. I think I spent the next 6 months walking around school, punching breeze blocks and making people duck because they thought I was going to punch them. I thought it was amazing. It's fantastic. But in those days as well, there was a group, there was 5 people that got 8 passes. It was their first grading and they didn't know they had to stay. They went. He failed them. That was it. No discussion. Yeah, just failed him. I also seen him do a couple of gradings where there was the guys, like I said, I used to look up to. They go to competitions, they'd win the patterns, they'd win the destruction, they'd win the sparring. They failed on a break. They failed their grading.
Right,
End of story. And that was a blue belt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was amazing.
So when did you get into the competition side of Taekwondo then, Dave?
I went to my first competition again as a yellow tag. We couldn't enter competitions then. It was in Whitchurch Leisure Centre in Bristol. And I just remember coming home with this catalogue with all the Bruce Lee pictures and all the stuff and all the equipment you can get. And I was just read that as if I was reading like the Encyclopedia Britannica of martial arts. It was just an everyday thing. And you just see all those people from around the different countries, around the country, doing the different techniques, the power, the speed, the elegance. And I got to be fair, I was useless, absolutely useless. I probably spent 3 years without winning a fight.
Okay.
First time I won a fight was at the English Championships as a red tag, and I won every fight, and I won that competition. And I fought Dave Oliver's son in that competition.
Okay. Yeah, Russell.
I fought Richard Stevens in the final.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Kenny
from the
Walton
yeah.
Kenny was the referee. And I remember him afterwards saying, "Well done, boys. That was a great Taekwondo fight." And Richie was the black belt at the time. And it was also at the time when they used to kick everybody out at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So they kick everybody out. They put one square in the middle, bring them all back in. That was in Hinckley Leisure Centre as well. So, yeah, I was getting to the point, mind, I was close to packing it in at that point.
Do you think that was the touch paper that really gave you that, right? This is what I'm going. I'm getting good at it. I can feel myself getting good at it.
Yeah,
I'm going. I really want to achieve more.
Yeah, I think throughout my Taekwondo career, there's been certain points where something. I think it's the same with any sport. Something happens at the time that's at the right time to keep you going, to keep you motivated.
Yeah. It's that catalyst, isn't it? That one thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's a voice in your ear. It's an event that happens. It's a loss. It's a win. Why did you think then, Dave, that one particular competition, everything started coming good? Was it because the way they split the divisions? Because I always remember, in the early days in the TAGB,
it was to do with the training I was doing. Because up for the first year, I trained twice a week, 2 hours at a time, twice a week.
Yeah.
When I got my green belt, we went on a training camp in Hillston Park in Monmouth. And these guys that I looked up to, I spent the week with them. And I was in a room, they were all 18 to 23. They took me under their wing. And from then onwards, I was training 9 times a week. I was lucky that where I lived, I had 3 clubs, 2 within 3.5 miles and 1 5 miles away.
Yeah.
And I just went and trained. I trained every single night, did 3 sessions on a Sunday, and I kept pushing. But I also had a guy called Gary Gasser that was one of the guys. And I found out he lived just down the road from me. And for about 4 years, I spent a lot of time with him. I don't see him that often now. He's gone into another association. I don't know whether you've heard of the Ginger Ninja Trickster.
Yeah.
It's his dad.
Oh, okay.
And he lived down the road. And I used to go to his house and we'd go running up to the leisure centres. We'd go in the gym. We used to train in his attic. And I think one of the big things, one of the turning points, we used to train in his living room. And we spar for an hour. And it wasn't 2-minute round, have a rest. It was an hour. It was just 1 round.
Right.
And if I could catch the sleeve on his dough box 3 times in that hour, I was chuffed to bits. Like I said, he took me under his wing and we put a lot of time in. He was showing me stuff. I had a punch bag in my bedroom. I go and train. I do different drills. And I think it was just the focus and the mindset I had. And I don't know what happened on that day. It just clicked. I'd always worked hard. Like I said, from green belt up to that point, I was working hard. But it just wasn't working for me. And then something happened on that day.
Yes. I mean, and you was a red belt. Is that right?
Red tags. Just short of my red belt.
So moving on from that day then, presumably you would have kept entering competitions. And then if it was anything like, certainly for me, I was desperate to get my black belt just so I could fight in the black belt divisions. That was the thing, wasn't it? It was like, I just want to get my black belt just so I can get in those black belt divisions. How did it all start off for you in the black belt divisions?
I think my first fight in the black belt as an adult was against the British #1, was against Ian Worrell. It wasn't somebody I think was around a lot, but he was like the main fighter, and I had Dave refereeing. Okay. And he was actually telling me what to do during the fight.
He must have been from up north then. Was he from up north?
Yeah, he was just guiding me through it. I didn't win the fight. The guy was a good fighter, but yeah, it was different. I think after about 6 months in the adults, because I took my black belt in the July 85 and had about 9 months as a black belt junior. And in those days, it was on height, same as it is now. Yeah. Kids weren't as big then. I was probably about the 3rd tallest, and I'm only 5'8" now. If I was in the junior division now, I wouldn't even register. I was looking up at them at their belly buttons because they're so tall. Yeah, I won 1 or 2 tournaments after that, because when you're fighting as a junior, you could be fighting somebody that's 4 or 5 stone heavier than you. Yeah. I had Mike Chung in my club. He's a big guy. He's a rugby player. He's a cyclist. His thighs are bigger than my both legs, even as a child. So he used to hit me. I'd bounce off and fly the other side. It was hit and miss. I'd get into the semis and the finals, but I wouldn't win as many.
Yeah, I certainly found that as a junior. They would split the division, 20 guys, 20 juniors. They'd line you up. First 10, you're the lightweights. The second 10, you're the heavyweights. And, me with my big afro, I always got thrown into the heavyweights. And got kicked around the square.
Yeah, you couldn't even disguise you with the head guard because there was no head guards then.
That was my head guard, thank God.
Yeah,
they were the good days. But no, once I got into the adult division, then it wasn't so much of like looking forward to it because I think I lost confidence.
Yeah,
I didn't win another competition for about 3 years as an adult. But around 16, 17, the confidence went. I stopped entering competitions. I didn't like sparring. I didn't even like sparring in the club.
Okay.
I was really like quiet and.
Did you was there one or two particular events that caused that? Did you take a couple of whacks, or was it just you just sort of maybe
nothing I can remember. There was nothing there that I thought, hang on, I don't like this. It was, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just that period you go through as a child growing up, changing from a boy into a man type thing. I was just a little bit shy. I still trained. I was still doing everything. I loved the training. My confidence just went with the sparring.
Okay.
And then probably about 18, I just got back into it. And I always used to fight at welterweight. And it was stupid. I used to keep coins and stuff in my coat so I weigh in a bit heavier. I know, it was stupid things. But the way I was looking at it was, I'm lighter, I can move faster than them, so I can pick them off.
Yeah.
Only problem was, as Jackson said earlier, his dad was the main guy.
Yeah.
And I absolutely idolized Jackson White Sr. He's amazing. It's not just his fighting style, just his attitude. He was laid back. There was no anger, aggression with him. He seemed to get on with everybody.
Never hit you out of malice, did he?
No, there's no malice at all. No. But if he hit you, you stayed hit.
Yeah. And
I spoke to him. I spoke to everybody else, and there's like a lot of good fighters out there. But no, Jackson, even now, I still look at him. He's like my little idol within Taekwondo.
He's just got this. He's just got this aura, hasn't he? And the way he moves, he just moves. Yeah. Even now, I mean, how old's your dad now, Jackie?
He's not going to thank me for this. I think he's 67.
Yeah, but he still moves like a 20-year-old.
He floats. I mean, he just floats.
He floats,
and you stay hit.
Yeah.
We talk to him about this all the time, and his version is, well, when he was a lightweight, and he was always a lightweight, never really a welterweight. And again, he was fighting the likes of Kenny Walton, Tombstone, that were light heavy middleweights, but he was always a lightweight. Even Tony Sewell and the Sewell brothers, who were all heavy, big blokes, and he actually thought he could beat them.
Yeah,
he'd go in there thinking, all I got to do is hit them harder. And actually, he really came into his own when when martial arts went into weight categories. Because all of a sudden he was a welterweight,
so strong,
but he was still hitting, as if he was a heavyweight. So it was, there's an advantage, I suppose, for training up a few weights.
That's it. Well, that's it. If you're hitting a heavy bag and then you go to a lighter one, the bag moves.
Yeah.
But what I found was, in those days, you could change your weight on the day. You used to just weigh in and you pick what division. And the one day I just went in, I wasn't feeling very well, so I thought I'd drop down to lightweight. And I tell you what, that was the change. When I hit them and they moved, instead of me bouncing off them like I did in the welterweights, it was a fantastic feeling. And I think it was only probably a few months before I actually won my first tournament in the lightweights. So, and then after that, obviously the confidence kicks in. The BTC started having competitions. So I won the British title fighting Wayne Burnett from Cardiff. Great friend, team member. Spent a lot of time training with him. I beat him, and then the BTC had the first event, and they basically said, if you win that, you're going to be in the British team. And 4 weeks later, I won the BTCs, and now I got into the British team through that way. And after that, it was just great. Confidence builds. When you start winning, your confidence gets better. The higher your confidence, the more you win, and it just keeps taking you higher and higher. And I just loved it. I even though my confidence went in sparring, it didn't go for Taekwondo. The love of Taekwondo. I've done it 39 years. and I loved every single second of it. I got lots of friends from it, got friends from around the world, and it's not just friends, they're family. You know this. You've got people that you look at them in a different way. You look at your workmates or friends from school. They are as close to you as family, and it's a fantastic feeling.
Most definitely.
Well, I remember your fights as, like I say. I mean, I was obviously a little bit younger than you. So I was, I mean, like in the '91 World Championships, I was like 15. I just moved up I was just moving up into the men's division. Now that you won that one, didn't you? You won 91.
I did. I fought Lee Childs in the final.
That's it.
I fought him 3 times that year.
Yeah.
We had a home nations tournament in February. Oh my God, he absolutely annihilated me. In the first round of the 2-round fight, he just ripped me apart. Then I fought him in the Welsh Grand Prix points tournament. Axe kicked me, gave me a bit of concussion. And then I fought him in the English Championships. That was a better fight. He still beat me convincingly. So yeah, when I got to the final and I was fighting Lee, it was great because we all looked over at Dave and Kenny and you saw the smile on their face. Yeah. And they thought, right, he's got this. We got another title we got for the English TAGB.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I worked my absolute backside off for that World Championship. So I thought, right, this is the best chance I'm going to get. I just finished with a long-term girlfriend and I thought, right, by the next one, I'm going to be married with kids. I wasn't aiming to do anything else with my life. That's the type of thing that you did. Come out of school, go a job, go married.
There's no better motivation than a good relationship breakup. Get that six-pack back.
That's it. Well, we split up. And I just worked really hard. And I also went and trained with other styles as well. I trained with Billy Priest.
Okay.
I did the Clash of Titans with Cal, Ivor, Brian. They accepted me down to their gym, Spit and Sawdust gym, but it was fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Those guys work hard. And I did that twice a week. But I was also training with all the boys from Newport. Like a lot of people used to think that when Newport put a team in for competitions, that we were bringing in people from other clubs.
Yeah.
Now, the Welsh team's basically made up of people from Newport Taekwondo. So I was training with those guys all the time. And then I was adding extra stuff in.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brilliant.
But round about that time in the early 90s, the Welsh team was really strong.
It was coming along strong.
It was. I mean, there was you and there was Wayne, there was Tangy. He was in I think, one as well.
Chungy, Gary Sanford, Kevin Parker was another one. Then you had obviously the girls, Reva, Sylvie. Yeah, it was brilliant. But I think we all have to owe that to Gianni.
Yeah.
Because Gianni took over my original club years before, and I didn't like the way he did things. It just didn't suit my way of fighting. I'm a front-legged fighter. I lift my leg up, I go bup, 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 and I try and hit them, put it down. The best way to describe Gianni's system of fighting is Joe Shembry.
Right, yeah.
Lots of movement, back legs.
You see how Joe move around a lot, it's fast, it's spinny, it's controlled. That just didn't suit me.
Yeah.
So I went and trained with Phil down in Newport, literally only 3 miles away from where the Risker Club, which Phil started at as well. Everybody just developed from the Risker Club. But then I started training with Gianni as the Welsh coach. And then we started training with Gianni in his Cardiff club, in his Barry club. And I think I've always trained with 2-3 instructors, pretty much from green belt up. So for 38 years, I've always had multiple instructors.
Yeah.
And if I had just trained with Phil, I wouldn't have won it. If I just trained with Gianni, I wouldn't have won it. But I was able to put the 2 systems together, and it made a massive difference.
Well, the thing is, as a young fighter, you need to, you're always looking, aren't you, for different ways to develop. And I think it's, what you just said then, it's a battle that we have quite a lot, a lot of times on the podcast where we get a lot of people who say, no, you should only train with one instructor, train with one style, where I think you've always got to try and mix it up, a little bit of kickboxing, a little bit of boxing, a little, you've got to look for that. You've got to look for that edge, haven't you? Especially if you're training with the same guys and the same coach over and over again.
Yeah.
You know that everyone's learning the same thing.
That's it. And it doesn't matter how much knowledge you've got. You can't make somebody you. You're going to teach them the way that you do things. And as I said earlier, you might have a way of teaching 99 students. You can't get through to that one. You go to another instructor, that one will improve that one student. You might not do anything with the others. You've got to pick that knowledge up. And the more people you train with, the better you get. And then you can pass that on to other people. They improve, and then it pushes you up. But where I was lucky, because we had like all those guys we were talking about, Chungy, Tangy, we all trained every single day. And in those days, I don't drink, but I like my food. So we go out and go to meals. We'd have to go to the cinema. But every time you say to the guys, "Are you going out Friday?" "Oh yeah, we're going training first." Yeah. They would never put training off for anything else. And we used to get together and we do like a pad session in the morning, go for a run, do some pads and sparring. Then we'd meet up and we'd go circuit training. We'd circuit train 6:30 till 7:30. Then we'd finish that and we'd jump in the car and drive down to Cardiff or Barry and train with Janny. Or we'd finish the circuit training, have a stretch for half hour, then we'd do a 2-hour training session with Phil. We just trained. We were in each other's pockets all the time. So we were just pushing and motivating. If we went squad training, if we went to the classes, we wouldn't all drive down in 6 different cars. We would try and fill up one car. We'd have as many people in one car. If we had to take another car, we'd split the people. So we were just bonding. We were just getting that team spirit together all the time. Yeah. But we didn't realize it was just something we were doing because we enjoyed it and we loved being with each other and we loved pushing each other.
That was just the time, though, wasn't it? I mean, you think about competitions. We used to jump in a minibus. How many people do that now? How many?
No, they don't.
If it's a competition, we used to have one minibus. The whole team used to get in. We used to get up, pick everyone up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get down there, and you all
wait around all day.
Yeah,
drive back in the morning.
and you can hear the chinging at the back of all the medals, or you can have or the black eyes, or the broken ribs, or someone that agony on the way home.
That's it. Then you break down on the motorway and you'd end up doing like an impromptu sparring session because you're bored. Little circuits up and down the side of the road.
But it just doesn't happen, does it? It doesn't happen. And I think, and the same when you talk about your training, that there's so many other distractions. I suppose in them days, that's all you had. That's what you had. You either had school or you had college or you had work and you had your training. There was no distractions of the internet. There was none of that, was it? You just focused on.
No, there wasn't. And I was quite a focused person anyway. Like I said, I didn't drink. I didn't really socialise that much. I'd stay with the Taekwondo guys. We go and get food, go to the cinema. They might go out clubbing and stuff. I didn't do that. All I was interested in was getting home, getting rest, and getting back out training the next day. My life, a lot of people think, "Oh my God, that's so boring," but I loved it. Yeah. Basically consisted of wake up, train, eat, go to work, go training, or I go to work in the morning, finish work 3:30, go in the gym, go home, have some food, go back, circuits, weights, training in the club. And that was my life. And I wouldn't change it. If anything, I would just train more. Yeah. Because I just loved this so much.
And you're still competing?
Yeah, if I can. I'm still going to get back out there. I've lost about 1.5 stone. Well, just under 2 stone, actually, over the last couple of months. So I want to make sure I'm back in and fit and ready when those competitions come up.
Yeah, don't lose too much, Dave, because you might find when you come to smash these boards with your back kick, or you might not have the weight behind it now.
No, when I won the Ridge Hand the first time, I won it in the British Championship. Same time as I won my first sparring competition, I won both that day. I was 9.5 stone.
Really?
So pure technique.
Pure technique. When I won my first world title with Ridge Hand, I was 10.5 stone. So I've never been one of these people that believe you've got to have weight. It helps. There's 3 things you need: hit it fast, hit it hard, and hit it straight. If you've got the technique, you've got that confidence. Every time I hit that stand, I want to break the stand. I want to take it apart. I'm not looking at the boards. I'm looking behind the boards. And I know if I don't break those boards, it's going to hurt me more. Yeah. So that board is going through.
Good philosophy to have.
Okay, then, Dave. So who would you say has probably been your biggest sort of influence, I suppose, in your Taekwondo journey?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, that's Phil Burley. He's the Newport instructor. I moved down to him from Risca when I was 17. We had a good team down there with Gary Sanford, Dave Thompson, Reaver. But Phil was the guy that kept everybody together. And the majority of the Welsh team was made up from Phil's club. And not only was he an instructor for me, and he's always been there for me with problems outside of Taekwondo. He's been a good friend. He's just had that incentive. He's always given the classes where you wanted to work and you feel that you had to give him everything. And I think the way he teaches, that's why he's been so successful. I think he won the British Shield 7 times.
Right.
For like most points.
We were discussing this before. And it's very typical of a martial arts instructor. You're not just the instructor, are you? You're the mentor, you're the coach.
That's it. Yeah.
You're everything. And, I think certainly in the martial arts fraternity, we appreciate that as the instructors. But outside of that fraternity, other sports probably don't see that as much.
No, they definitely not. It's a completely different lifestyle. Well, it is a lifestyle when you're a martial arts instructor. You're not there just to teach a couple of skills. You're there to give life skills.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can carry that through in different sections of their life. And like I said with Phil, he's not just a friend, he's my son's godfather, and I couldn't ask for a better person to be doing that. So he's been a fantastic influence, and even now he's still working he works full time. He's teaching 5 nights a week, and he's got about 150 students overall, and the kids that are coming through are a fantastic level, as they have been for like the last 3 or 4 decades. And I'd just like to say thanks very much to him for being there for everything.
Okay, cool.
So talk us through some of your memorable trips, because I know you're a member of the TAGB squad for a number of years. So talk us through probably your first trip. How was that?
First trip was Ireland, and like I said, I got picked because I won the BTC competition, and I was over there. With I think Kenny was in the team, Ray Gale, Mark Ogborn. And it was the same weekend that Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. Right. South African Prime Minister, President, he was released. I can't remember his name is now. Nelson Mandela. He was released. So it was a big weekend. I went over. I think I fought at welterweight. Didn't do too well. I lost, but TAGB went out in the semi-final on that one as well. So it wasn't the most fantastic start to my international career. But I bonded with the guys. And it just went from there then. I just made sure I went squad training all the time, never missed a session. And then it went on. A couple of years later, I think the first biggest trip I had was Atlanta. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Like we were used to having 10 rings, maybe 12. You go to the Battle of Atlanta, 32 rings. Wow. Over 3,000 competitors. And that was in 1992. I actually we flew out the day before my grandfather's funeral. He died the Thursday before, buried the following week, and we flew out on the Wednesday. But I know 100% that's what he would have wanted. I was actually talking to somebody about this yesterday, because he died on the 16th of April, so it was 29 years ago Friday. And but I know how proud he was of me, and didn't matter what would have happened to him, he would have wanted me to do it. Yeah. Went out there. Battle of Atlanta wasn't fantastic, but then we went up to Canada as well. Competed up there, won the individuals, won the teams. That was the first time really that I spoke to Jackson properly, when we were walking around there, and I realised what type of guy he was, how fit he is, the amount of work he did, the training he did, the levels, and I just knew I had to push it even higher. One of the greatest things in the British squad was when I was running around and you partner up and you get with somebody, and Jackson calls me over and he says, "Shep, come over here, mate. I know I'm going to get a workout with you." Oh my God, the beam on my face and my head. I was like, yes, I'm in there. It's fantastic, because even though I'd won a world title at that point, it was to have one of these guys call me over and want to train with me because they knew I was going to push him. It was just fantastic. And even now,
it gives you that comradeship, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's healthy competition. We spoke to some of the other greats, the Ralphs, the Ray Gales.
The Banksies.
It's all about, there were so many great fighters at so many weights, and everyone was fighting. But if you didn't get picked, nobody talked about it.
No.
You're just there pushing everybody on, because, next competition, it'll be your time and then someone else's time.
Yeah.
And having that plethora of awesome fighters to pick from. It must have been a nightmare for the coaching staff.
That's it. Yeah. Well, at that time, you could have about 5 different teams, couldn't you? Because we had such a depth. But I remember there was we went to Switzerland about 1990, and there was 2 places going, and there was a playoff between myself, Ray Gale, and Gary Sanford, and we did a little round robin points tournament in the squad session, and Ray and Gary got picked. So I just went and paid for it and went over myself, and luckily I beat Ray in the semi-finals. Yeah. And I think I actually fought Don Atkins in that tournament as well. Grandmaster Atkins. I fought him, fought Wayne. I think I got silver medal in that one. I think I lost to Wayne in the final. But again, you had the likes of Dorian Bytham was in the team. Tony Sewell. Remember Tony Sewell getting a bronze medal for doing Chung Mu? And did you know there was a back kick and 2 side kicks in the middle of Chung Mu, following each other? Spun around, back kick, double side kick, and he still got a bronze medal for it. And it was just seeing like Dorian did, Dorian did the roll over axe kick, and it was like, wow, this is fun, and it just made you want to work harder. And then there was the partying afterwards, hour and a half sleep in 36 hours. When you go to the clubs afterwards, and obviously Cardinal Puff in those days as the initiation ceremony. But yeah, luckily I used a bit of red lemonade, so I don't drink, so I just pretended it was cider. But I still messed up the first time. But luckily Dave realised what I'd done and he let me get away with it.
Once you finished competing, how did your martial arts career transition? How did you find that transition?
Oh, it was horrible. I didn't really want to. I had a problem with breathing for about a year. We think it was something to do with a girl I was seeing at the time. She had a block flu, and we think it was something to do with carbon monoxide.
Okay.
So we got it sorted in the end. It took me out for 11 months, completely out. I was struggling. I couldn't walk upstairs. I was really struggling. So I come back into it. I had 11 months out. I couldn't train properly. I wasn't doing anything at all, to be fair. I was still going down and watching. Got back into it. My first session back, once it was all sorted, was British squad training. Did the first hour. Couldn't walk after that. Blisters coming out from everywhere. Because you know what I was like, hour of fitness, have a little break, hour of sparring. And then I did a competition the following week, and it was at the time when they were going to Australia. And I fought Tariq, who was another fantastic leg man, in the final. And at that point, my energy levels had gone completely and utterly wiped out. So I had 9 months coming back into competition, didn't win any more tournaments, but I was always getting to the finals. I always got to the final, but I just couldn't win the tournament. And then I had trouble with my hip, and that just finished it. That took 2 years to solve. Never really found out what the problem was, but the leg was just locking on me.
That front leg side kick of yours, Dave, you overused it.
Overused
it all these years.
Quite a possibility. I think in the end we found out years later it was an inflamed bursa, but I just at the time didn't know. It took 2 years for it to go. But so I had a year when I wasn't competing, I wasn't training, I wasn't doing anything, and I got a bit depressed. It's not nice. I've had all this time. When I was training for the second world title in '94, I was doing 28 hours a week training. I was pushing it. I was loving it, and I was always training between 15 and 20 hours a week. A lot of people think, you go and train 2-hour sessions or 2 1-hour sessions, and that's it. It's not. You're in the boxing club, you're in the gym, you're doing ankle weight drills, you're doing kicking drills, stretching, you're running, you're doing weights, you go into different classes, yoga, Pilates, all different things, and then all of a sudden, bang, gone. And it took me down, and it was a big chunk of my life that went. But one of the guys I used to train with in Newport, Dave Thompson, he said, right, we're going to go and start the club together. And Dave was another guy, fantastic ability. He just did not like fitness. His kicking ability was amazing. He won 1 tournament in his life, just happened to be the World Championships. When he got the fitness, his ability, all came together. He fought James Grogan in the final in '94. So amazing. I won the lightweight, he won the light heavy. His girlfriend Reva Bassi at the time, Mrs. Curtis now, she won the ladies middleweights and she won the teams. Oh, brilliant. All from Phil's club as well, all from Newport. And we had other people winning like Destruction. So we started the club up in Hereford. And the strange thing about that, I started that club 9 years after fighting your dad in the British Championships in Hereford Leisure Centre. Right. The first time I ever got mentioned in a magazine. Dave done the write-up and he was like, oh, watch out for like David Sheppard. So it was like a little circle. And I've been there now for 24 years teaching. Wow. And it's fantastic. The staff up there are brilliant. The venue is fantastic. My students, again, you treat them as kids. Yeah. Whether they're 4 years old, whether they're 67 years old. You look after them. You nourish them. You teach them, you show them what to do, you give them ideas, you let them grow with it. But they are your kids, don't care how old they are.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just chatting to Nicola. Obviously, we did a podcast with her a bit earlier on before you, and was just talking about the it only takes one thing from your coach, one thing from your instructor. It could be the slightest little, oh, that was a great kick.
Yeah.
Or, well done, I can see you've been practicing. Or and you don't realise how much it means to for someone, do you? That could be the difference between them giving up or them taking it to the next level. Just a single word and they take it on board.
That's it. I think a good coach knows where they can push people. You've got some people that you've got to shout at and just be on their back all the time.
Yeah, my son.
Gavin.
Possibly.
Have you done that job yet, Gavin?
See, I was useless with that. If people were in my face shouting at me all the time, I was rubbish. You give me praise, oh my God, I would go forever.
Yeah.
And I'm that
skill,
type of student.
As a martial arts instructor, you're not just the instructor, you're the mentor, you're the coach. And it's about understanding, and I think that's where, we probably don't big ourselves up enough as martial arts instructors. Because you have to have that skill set across all of those disciplines to really develop your students.
Yeah, and you've got X amount of students in front of you. Every single one of those students works in a different way.
Yeah.
And it's down to you to work out which way is the best and try and develop them.
In that 1 or 2 hours a week that you see them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But
it's challenging.
You do only see a lot of them 1 or 2 hours a week, but you also know that there's other stuff that goes outside, and you're not just an instructor. You've got so many different aspects to that role that it envelops you. Because even, and yourselves, when you're teaching, you don't teach for 2 1-hour sessions. The minute you walk out that door, you're starting to think, right, what can I do next time? Right, so-and-so is doing it this way. How can I improve that? Right, I want to make this drill a little bit better. Yeah. You spend your whole time. I don't know what you're like, Jack, because I know my bosses don't hear this. But when I'm in work, Taekwondo's there all the time.
It was in the back of the head, isn't it?
Stuff going on. You're constantly thinking in different ways. You'll watch a different sport. Because I work in leisure centres. So I've got tennis camps, I've got cricket camps, I've got swimming camps. You've got the Welsh cyclists. The venue I work at is where the British cycling team come down and train for the Olympics. So you look at the different training methods and you think, right, how can I develop that?
How can you incorporate a little bit of that into what I'm doing to improve my students? Yeah, definitely.
That's it. So you're constantly, all the time thinking. You don't get time off from it, but it's a love, so it's not a job.
It's a passion, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, then we're going to be wrapping up in a minute. So one of the questions that we always ask our guests: what's kept you motivated over your martial arts journey?
I just want to improve. Just always improving for myself personally. I was talking to one of my students the other day, and I don't think I throw a kick when I'm not looking at it and thinking, how can I improve that? Mm-hmm. And it's every time. It's when I'm teaching white belts, when I'm teaching 4th dans, 5th dans. Every time I throw it, I look at it, and I'm constantly criticizing my techniques. I want to get better. I want to get stronger. I want my students to look at it and think, right, that's exactly how I want it. But I also want them to criticize it. Yeah. You say, well, you tell us that it's supposed to be done this way, but you did it that way. And then you have that discussion. You say, yeah, but if you do it this way, it can work like that. Or if you do it that way, the reason I tell you to do that, because it might work better for you that way. Yeah. And now, especially with the club, I just want my guys to improve and get better and better. I've got national champions, European, world champions, and it's great having those. But I've also got students that struggle walking. They've got no disability. They just got that coordination where it just does not work.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be the more rewarding challenges, can't they? Because if someone with lots of talents goes out and as fantastic as it is, don't diminish their achievements, but to work with someone that's more challenging and to get them even to their red belt or even to their black belt along that path where you've had to watch them struggle from day one. I think can be sometimes more rewarding than watching the talented athlete go away and light the world up with his kicks and his punches.
100%. Yeah. I'm a competitor. I've always have been. And I like having the competition side of the club. But I would rather have 20 people that are never going to win a fight, but they give 100% every single time they walk in that door, than have 10 people who are going to win gold medal every time they walk out on the mat, but they don't put the effort in. Yeah. My outlook on it is I always describe myself as Incy Wincy Spider. I never do it the first time, maybe not the second or the third, but I will get it. And I was probably one of the hardest workers well, Phil always says, I'm the hardest student he's ever had. And that's how I think people should work. I think you've got to work hard. And because I lost so much at the beginning, I appreciated it when I won.
When you win it, yeah.
And I just want to see people work. I want to see them work hard. I want to see them enjoy it. I want to see them improve. And I want to see them looking at how they can make themselves improve, not just sitting back and waiting for other people to do it.
Make it happen. It's a cliche, isn't it? But hard work does pay off in martial arts.
Definitely. Yeah.
And we've not come across any top class fighter in any of the interviews we've done over the last 2 years that said, "Oh yeah, I walked into the room, I wiped out." In fact, we only got one.
Yeah, we did have one. I can't remember who it was.
It was Alfie Lewis.
What was it?
But he said,
funny enough, that's who I had going through my head then.
He said, even Alfie said, to win was easy, to keep winning was hard, and that's when he had to start putting the effort in, because people were coming after him and they were gunning him down. And that's when he really understood what hard work was, and he worked as hard as anybody else. Yeah,
but that's going back to what I was saying earlier about how I like praise. When I was training for like the World Championships and stuff, I would go 6 weeks where I was training 4 hours a day. If I come into a competition and I came second, I'd be on a downer. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I lose. Eventually I get back into it, but for the next few days I'm like out of it.
Miserable.
If I win, I'm back out the next day and I'm pushing even harder. The winning makes me work harder.
Yeah.
And I think the minute you stop and you think, right, I've done this, I'm the best I can be, you're just going to deteriorate from the inside out.
Yeah.
You've got to want to improve.
You need to. I think it's like everything in life, isn't it? The joy is not the reward. The joy is the progression towards that reward, isn't it? It's every time you get a little bit better at something, you start to get, actually, I'm getting good at this, and that's what drives you forward. Because it's like all too often when you achieve the thing that you want to achieve, it doesn't feel like you thought it was going to before you started that journey. You think actually, I'm champion now. I'm champion. Oh, great. Oh, shit, what's next?
Well, I always used to say when I went to competition, I've won the tournament. Now I want to win the competition without getting hit.
Yeah.
And I won a competition once, and I came out of it. I had about 3 or 4 fights, and I don't think it didn't feel like I was hit. And I felt, well, did I deserve that?
Yeah.
It's not unless you work really hard. But going back to what you're just saying now, black belt, I think that's one pinnacle.
Yeah.
To me, when you start, you want to get it. When you get closer to it, I don't think it's as important once you get closer.
Yeah. You understand the journey to it. Right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. It's the journey after. But getting your black belt is like passing your driving test.
Yeah.
You've learned the skills to be good enough to be that level.
But just the basics. It's only the basics you've learned, isn't it?
Once you've done that, that's where you grow. Yeah. That's where you develop, and that's where you improve. And you're just constantly looking ahead.
Yeah,
looking to better yourself.
I agree, and I use the same analogy with my students. The driving test thing, and it is you've either going to be pass your driving test, or do you want to be a Formula One driver?
That's it.
On that note, though, Shep, never get in a car with Gavin. Not unless you got a crash habit and your rugby pads on. That's for sure. It's not a pleasant experience.
Shut up.
No, I enjoy driving, but I wouldn't say I'm the best driver, but I do enjoy driving. I live 3 miles from work. I drive 24,000 miles a year, roughly.
Shep, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's been a great catch-up as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
And the thing is, Dave, you've been in it for the long haul. Like I said, I had 12, 13 years out of Taekwondo, and I remember, watching you as a youngster, seeing you compete, and then all of a sudden coming back 12, 13 years later, and there you are with your beard, still at the competition, still smashing, still breaking and still winning medals. It's like, Jesus, is that Shep? Okay, he's still winning. You know what I mean?
I'm still planning on keeping going. I haven't given up yet. I've got the mentality of a teenager, so I just got to keep pushing. It's whether my body can cope with it.
That's it. Yeah, that'll be the thing that gives out first, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. But if I can, the thing is, as you get older, you just get a little bit more control in what you're doing, and you should know how your body works. So, exactly. In theory, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on this evening, and keep safe, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up soon.
Yeah, so thank you again.
Looking
Thanks
forward
for
to that day.
inviting me on. It's been brilliant seeing you both and speaking.
Yeah,
to you.
look,
I hope you get something out of this, and it does motivate somebody.
Brilliant.
It'll
Looking forward
motivate a lot of
to the
people.
first competition back, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Won't be long. Fingers crossed.
It'll be everyone be hugging each other, won't they? It'll just be.
Oh yeah.
It'll just be like a ring of people hugging each other. Forget the fighting.
I know. They might as well just cancel the first tournament and just say, right, we're going to get
We'll
together.
make it a 2-day event.
Yeah. Make sure there's a party after.
I think that'll be happening.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Bye,
have a good evening then. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of the Motivated Martial Artist podcast. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our Facebook group, the Motivated Martial Artist podcast.
And don't forget also the Motivated Martial Artist Instagram page.
So head along for some extra content, interviews and much more.
So until next week, it's bye from Jackson
and Gavin,
the Motivated Martial Artists.